Hey, you guys, thanks for listening in to this episode of Tips with T. On today, I have Mr. George with us. Hey, Mr. George, how you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you so much.
Thank you for being a guest on the show today. So tell us more about yourself and what you do.
So, thank you for having me. And my name is George Kalajian. I am the owner of Tom's Sons International Pleating. We are a pleating contractor in New York City, in the Garment Center in New York City. And what that means is that we do a very specific part of the process for making clothing for a lot of the designers that go down the runway during 7th Avenue and Fashion Week and all that stuff twice a year. So we are the ones that are responsible for helping the designers, come up with execute their design technically. So they'll have a concept, and what we'll do is we'll actually help them make it a reality, and we'll make it in a way that is affordable and reproducible. And then when they get their orders, then we actually produce it for them, and it's all done in Manhattan.
Awesome, awesome. So, tell us, how was your journey of becoming an entrepreneur? What did that look like for you?
So, entrepreneurship is something that has always been kind of around me in my family environment. My the business that I'm in right now is a family business, and I am the fifth generation in the industry of fashion. So I always, as growing up, my father had several businesses, and my aunts and uncles, and they always were doing things. So it just kind of seemed, it just seemed like that was a normal thing to do. When I was about 20 years old, I would say I started to first venture out and try and do things on my own. So I actually started two product lines underneath the I guess you say the umbrella of my father's factory, and one of them was a decorative pillow company, and that was okay, well, so. And then the other one was an actual garment company. So back then, actually, my father, he made his own clothing. So we did everything. We designed clothing, and we manufactured and we distributed it all throughout the world, actually. And so started that collection, and it was very, very successful. Lasted about a year or two. Then there was a war and mumbo jumbo, and things got bad, and I wanted to change. I was very young, and I kind of wanted to leave the cocoon and go out on my own. So I went to work for a computer consulting company, and I did that for a few years, and that was a great experience. And that was me being an employee, but I was a salesman, so it did have a little bit of entrepreneurship to it, and plus they sent me to a satellite office, so they basically gave me the whole field. So I did that for a couple years, and then got out of that, and then I decided to open a bar. So then I got into the bar business, and that was an interesting experience. I personally would consider it was a success, but I ended up selling it after a year to my partner. I started with a partner, and one of the things that really hit home to me during that partnership, it was my first partnership, was something that my father would always say to me, which was partnership, never. Don't ever say the word partnership to me. And he would say to me, son, you can marry a woman and then you can get a divorce. But once you have a partner, he's like, that's it. You can't get him out of your life. um, anyway, so I did that for about a year, and it was a great learning experience. Um, and I left, and that was in Orlando, Florida. And then I left and came back to New York, and my intention was to open up a bar in New York City, and I kind of took that as a test ground. And when um, when I started to look into the actual lifestyle of having a bar in Manhattan, I started to second guess myself and think like, do I really want to do this for the rest of my life? Like, I will not be like, it'll be very draining on my health and well-being.
Mhm.
So then I got back into the fashion business and I started another business with my mother where we were making very high-end women's evening jackets. They were all special order, made to order to all the women down south and everything that needed special measurements. Um, and again, I left that business and was kind of like floating around for a while, wanting something new. And I was really all this time, I was kind of searching for my purpose. Like nothing really excited me.
Mhm.
Um, it was like I had no rocket fuel,
Mhm.
And it wasn't until I went back to New York to my father's factory and when I kind of got my purpose, when I realized what my purpose was.
Mhm.
And it kind of slapped me in the face when I realized that, my family has been doing this particular part of the garment process for, over 125 years. And if I allow it to stop with my father, then it would be over.
Mhm.
And there was too much information that my father specifically had that would be gone. It would just totally be gone. So that's when I realized that to continue the legacy was super important for me. And I almost thought like I was crazy for doing it because it was a time when production in China was totally rampant. Everyone was sending everything overseas because it was so much cheaper and factories are closing. And here I am, I'm starting a new business
Mhm.
in the garment center in Manhattan. But I felt like my strategy was to cater to the ultra high end. I knew that I had a skill set that was something that was not everyone had what I had. The knowledge that I had contained from my father was not something that was easily located anywhere, and it was evident in what we were able to produce.
Mhm.
So there were stunning gowns we were able to produce. So I decided to do that. Um, and yeah, and that's what I've been doing for the past 8 or 10 years now.
Awesome. Now I
Sorry, that's a
know
long-winded. Sorry, that's a long-winded answer.
it's okay. I know that you was telling me before when we had previously chat that you were able to help save your family pleating business. So how were you able to do that and accomplish that, and so y'all could still stay in business?
So one of the main reasons why the business was going down was because my father was unable to communicate with the new methods of communication available today,
Mhm.
primarily social media and the internet. The way he worked back in the day, it was a handshake here and a handshake there, and if you had a factory, you were pretty much guaranteed work.
Mhm.
Now that's not the case. So I started to go online and started to research and to see, was there any information about pleading out there? Did anyone really know? Like, so I assessed it out. Like, what do people really know about pleading? What do they think that they know? And I found it very difficult to find that knowledge. So
Mhm.
I started to write very technical blog posts on Google to get my search ranking very high. And very slowly but surely, we started to get traffic and we started to get orders. And next thing you know, we started to get certain high profile jobs and the word spread. And hence, we got all these high profile projects like, making garments for the Metropolitan Museum or being in famous movies. Um, so yeah, that was my primary strategy. In addition to that, I actually wanted to establish myself as as an opinion leader,
Mhm.
or I should say an authority on the subject. And so what I did was I started to write a book,
Mhm.
and the textbook took me 4 years to accumulate this knowledge and basically catalog it in a way that is understandable. And hence, when the book came out, it was a major endorsement of our capabilities, because people would read the book and they would see, wow, like this is, the oldest garment in the world is 5,000 years old. So if you go to National Geographic and you type in what's the oldest garment, it's a garment that was found in an Egyptian tomb and it's 5,000 years old and it's pleated.
Mhm.
And you would think that the oldest garment, if it was pleated, then you could say that next to sewing, then pleating would be the oldest form of fabric manipulation. And there's bazillions of books on sewing, but
Mhm.
no one has ever written a book on pleating before. I mean, it blew my mind. It took me years to kind of like realize that why hasn't anyone ever done this before?
Mhm.
So that was also a major accomplishment that we had
That's
that
awesome.
helped us boosted us
That's awesome. So how are you guys able to stay afloat during this pandemic with everything going on?
with a dinghy, with a rowboat. No, well, what we have done is we are actually doing like a very hard pivot in our business right now. We are still servicing our current clients, even though it's significantly reduced. Um, but we're doing basically a double pivot. One is that we are going from wholesalers to direct to consumers.
Mhm.
And the other pivot is that we are now making completed products. So what we started out with was making masks, and we started making scarves, and now we're working on more products like skirts and pants and evening gowns and bridal. So it will be basically it'll be like, I'm reluctant to use the word Amazon, but
Mhm.
it'll be like the Amazon of pleating,
Mhm.
but it will be beautiful, ultra high end, because that's our specialty.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Mr. George, for being on the show, coming and sharing your journey with us. So tell our listeners how they can get in contact with you if they would like to, and I will share your social media handles.
Sure. So basically, the easiest thing is they can pick up the phone and dial my number, and they can actually call me. So that's one way. Instagram is a great way to get in touch with us. I actually am very active on Instagram. It's my preferred medium for communication. And also, there is a documentary that was made about us by the Scientology Network, and it explains everything, like my family history, what we've done, the clients that we've serviced, and all the beautiful work that we've done. There's a link to that on my website. If you look under the press page, you should find a link to that, and that would be the most um, succinct way of basically knowing as much about us as possible.
Awesome. And if you guys want to get in contact with me, you could do so. My number is 910-317-0396. You can shoot me an email at contact@mjfinancial.biz. You can visit the website, www.mjfinancial.biz, if you want to schedule a consultation with me. You can find this episode on Anchor, you guys, and you can also find the video for this interview on the YouTube channel. So thank you once again, Mr. George, for coming on the show. I highly appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it so much.
And you guys, we will see you on the next episode of Tips with T.